Let's get one thing straight. While Doug Ford plays the lovable oaf who can't find his own riding, behind the scenes he's running the greatest game of musical chairs in Ontario politics. Today I'm talking about Ontario Place, a prime slice of Toronto's waterfront that's been crying out for something ambitious for decades. And no, not another glass condo complex with a Dollarama on one corner and a Starbucks on the other. A chance for a bold cultural hub. But instead, Ford handed off a 95-year lease to Therme Group, a spa outfit with one spa in Romania and under €1 million in equity when they bid for the gig. Yep, fake it till you make it. It's the oldest trick in the startup playbook. Inflate your resume, bluff your way past due diligence, then hope nobody notices until you're holding the keys. And Ford's stick as the bumbling trust me everyman has handed us a lakeside fiasco and a scandal so baffling it's hard to stay mad. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Ontario Place opened in 1971 under Premier John Robarts as a futuristic showcase for Ontario on 3 man-made islands, complete with 5 sculptural pods, the revolving form concert stage, and the world's first permanent IMAX theater, the Cinesphere. By the late 80s, attendance had slumped from a peak of roughly 3 million visitors annually in the 1970s to about 2.1 million by 1989, then continued downward to just 500,000 in its final 2011 season, leaving empty walkways, shuttered pavilions, and the eerie vibe of a dying mall. On February 1st, 2012, Liberal Premier Dalton McGuinty's government shuttered the public facets of the park, citing Ontario's burgeoning deficit, chronic multi-million-dollar operating losses, and tanking attendance. They immediately appointed the eventual Toronto Mayor John Tory as chair of a ministry's advisory panel on revitalization. Only the Marina, Amphitheatre, Atlantis venue, and parking remained open, while the rest of the site went dark. Then in May 2019, the province released a big bold ideas request for proposal, with a few simple rules. No condos, no casinos, and no net loss of green space. And with that RFP, the province invited big, bold ideas and quietly collected 34 closed-door proposals, all under strict NDAs that barred any public promotion or consultation. Infrastructure Ontario managed the process, and in December 2019 recommended 8 primary partners, including 3 anchor tenants and 5 site activators. Yet the full roster of bidders remained secret for about 5 years, and evaluation criteria wasn't weighted, ranked, or disclosed. It was a subjective, behind-closed-doors affair, exactly the kind of opaque playing field where fake it till you make it can flourish. In August 2021, the Ford government quietly crowned Therme Group, an Austrian-founded wellness operator best known for their lone Romanian spa, as the anchor partner for Ontario Place, touting an all-season oasis with indoor-outdoor pools, water slides, botanical gardens, and affordable wellness programming. Observers immediately wondered how a company with 0 North American track record snagged a 95-year lease under NDA shrouded procurement. Then in December 2024 came the Auditor General's report on the whole fiasco. The report turned a messy backroom deal into a full-blown scandal. As Shelley Spence, the Auditor General, bluntly noted, the call for development process was not fair, transparent, or accountable to all participants. In other words, what should have been an open contest with clear rules and public oversight became an insiders-only scramble, cloaked in NDAs and missing even the most basic scoring rubrics. And even worse, the report found that an Infrastructure Ontario vice president communicated directly with Therme's legal counsel during the prohibited no-contact period, where they saw 9 emails and a phone call slipping through the firewalls meant to protect competing bids, an extraordinary breach that blew open any claim of equal treatment. Then there's the resume padding stunt. Therme's submission proudly touted 6 globally placed facilities, but as the Auditor General discovered, that list was built on sand. And that in their review of the 6 spas cited in Therme's submission, they found 5 instances where the facility was neither owned nor operated by Therme Group. But also to be expected, Spence warned that what started out as a modest $424 million vision in 2019 had ballooned to over $2.2 billion for Ontario taxpayers. That staggering total covers roughly $700 million for the new Ontario Science Centre, $280 million for a 5-story parking garage, $347 million in site servicing, and about $500 million in public realm upgrades, new parks, boardwalks, and public spaces. You might be saying, how does this relate to Therme? Well, in effect, the province front-loaded a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure package that de-risks Therme's spa build-out. So a company with under €1 million in equity can step into a turnkey waterfront while taxpayers quietly cover the lion's share of the heavy lifting. But then, just recently, some great reporting over at the New York Times dove further into the auditor's report. The investigation pulled back the curtain on Therme Group's bid, exposing a textbook case of material misrepresentation. The Times zeroed in on Therme's insignia, a riff on Botticelli's Venus, which bears a striking resemblance to the branding of Erding Spa, an entirely separate operator. A clear strategic ploy to misrepresent the number of spas Therme owned. And by securing this golden lease, Therme has vaulted from an undercapitalized startup with under 1 million euros in equity to a darling of global investors. After the deal with Infrastructure Ontario was announced, Therme was able to attract more investments and secure new projects, turning a dubious Ontario bid into the springboard for an international spa empire. After the Ontario Place deal, Therme didn't just win a lease. They unlocked serious funding. Last December, they tapped Sydney-based Macquarie Capital for a $335 million loan to finally acquire the Erding Spa they falsely claimed on their bid. Then in 2025, Sculptor Capital Management committed $250 million to kickstart Therme's stalled Manchester project. And the Georgetown company bought a 25% equity stake in Therme's U.S. arm, underwriting expansion into 10 American sites. What began as a bluff with under 1 million euros in equity has now become a cash-rich global wellness empire, powered in large part by a lucrative Ontario lease. In the days since the New York Times Exposé, Ford has shrugged off the scandal. He initially told reporters that he'd ask his infrastructure minister and civil servants to double and triple check the Ontario Place contract, though he insisted it wasn't an investigation, just a check to ensure the deal passed the smell test. And by the Thursday, he declared himself very satisfied with the $2.2 billion agreement, insisting there was no reason to believe there's been any wrongdoing. And he vowed to press ahead with what he called a world-class waterfront redevelopment. Okay, so here's my final thoughts. The Therme saga is the perfect example of modern venture capitalism. A masterclass in fake it till you make it, where ambition outpaces integrity and public trust becomes collateral damage. Yet this story transcends the usual startup hustle. It's a glaring indictment of Doug Ford's governance, revealing a premier whose folksy common sense shtick masks either staggering naivete or calculated self-interest. Ontario Place, a visionary public asset, has been hijacked by a company that inflated its credentials, exploited lax oversight, and turned taxpayer-funded infrastructure into a global launchpad, all under Ford's watch. The Auditor General's findings demonstrate a process so corrupted by backroom dealings that you can't help but wonder if the Ford government is trying to seem much more incompetent than they actually are. Ford's administration handed Therme, a firm with minimal equity and a track record built on false claims, a 95-year lease for a property enabled by an infrastructure platform costing billions. The province is now footing the bill for parking garages, sewers, and roads, while Therme reaps the rewards, leveraging their Ontario windfall to secure global investments. This isn't just poor judgment, it's a betrayal of the public trust. Either Ford, the self-styled man of the people, was duped by a spa company with a €1 million balance sheet, or his government actively enabled a rigged game. Both scenarios are damning. The premier's persona as a simpleton stumbling through politics is either a farce or a liability. If he genuinely believed a luxury spa on prime public land was a win for Ontarians, his incompetence is staggering. If, however, this deal reflects a pattern of cronyism where NDAs shield backroom favors and due diligence is optional, then Ford isn't bumbling, he's complicit. Either way, Ontarians are left with a waterfront fiasco and a premier whose actions mock his everyman image. Therme's rise from obscurity to global player, fueled by Ontario's muddy waters, should leave voters questioning who Ford truly serves. When a Romanian spa empire flourishes while taxpayers foot a $2.2 billion bill, it's time to stop laughing at the lovable oaf and start questioning things. The real scandal isn't that Ford might be a fool. It's that he's getting away with playing one. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, share my content. I appreciate all the engagement I get. I promise I read every comment. If you haven't already, think about subscribing. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.